Okay, after many adjustments and redoing the painting at least twice, I've done a different background because I added some more red and stuff. So I showed you how to do the background, or a type of background. Choose any colors that you would like. Just make sure it's that X to give it a more X shape, and when you're brushing, to give it that mottled kind of look, which is what I tried to do here. And now, after having set all this up, what I really want to do is turn it sideways. Move the tripod out a little. Awesome. That works. So I have my flower, which is an orchid, that I want to do. And I want to do just the one, but make it fill most of the canvas. So I have my trusty little pastel pencil where I'm going to do my sketch. So I'm going to start over here with the top of the first petal, which comes down about like this. I'll actually post the photo I'm using as well. This happens to be a photo that I took myself, so I have no copyright infringement problems, but definitely check to make sure that you have the right to paint the photograph. Lindsay Wyrick, the Frugal Crafter, uses Paint My Photo. I've been to that site, and it's actually pretty cool. So I would advise you to check that out. And I'm just tracing out, well, not tracing, I'm kind of drawing out my orchid. And it all seems to come back down to this throat in the center here. Fortunately, the pastel pencil is fairly easy to just remove with your finger if you discover, like I just did, that you made a mistake. And then the throat comes down about like this. Okay, my picture on the computer disappeared. And it kind of like this, and then we have this central piece that's part of what attracts the insects and pollinators and stuff. And it comes down about like that. Now, I'm not expecting this orchid here to look exactly like my photograph because, well, that's probably just never going to happen. And these are kind of like the pieces that, well, that didn't get anywhere near even, did it? The kind of like the pieces that just come, the little stamen-ishy looking pieces. Yeah, I know, I just made up a word. There we go. So, if it winds up looking like a fantasy orchid, so be it. It's my orchid. I can do whatever it is I want. And these are just the two bottom petals. And I think in the last piece there's like a little beard kind of thing that comes down this way. I think when I get the base of the flower drawn in, I'm just making some fine-tuning adjustments here. There we go. I will come back in and put in the details in the throat. This is just the basics. I hope you can all see the pencil outline, well, the chalk outline that I did. It's pretty cool. And because this is a dark background, what I'm going to do is take my Apple Barrel White. Happens to be in gloss, but I happen to actually like this product. Goes over just about everything, and you can paint over it fairly easily. Okay. Oh, here it is. I found my palette, which is pretty sad, I know, but it's a styrofoam plate. I don't just throw them away after each use. I recycle them, because you can actually soak these in water. Floor, okay, you can put your stuff on the floor and sweep later. And as you can see, it comes up off of the styrofoam fairly easily. This has been dried a couple of days, and it comes up fairly easily. So if you put it in water and let it soak for a half an hour or so, it'll all come off, or mostly all come off your plate, so you can reuse these. So I know it's styrofoam, but it's reusable, and I like reusable stuff. So I'm putting the white out on my palette, and I'm just going to give myself a bright background to fill in. So I'm going to start with white, and I'm using a Royal and Langnickel brush. It looks like it's the 1-inch wide. It's not very sharp chiseled anymore, because it's one of my favorites, but that's okay. And I'm just filling my brush up with white, and it's just color blocking it in to give myself a nice bright background on which to put the mauvey pinky color of the orchid. So this isn't hard, it's just coloring inside the lines. But I like to, even though it's coloring inside the lines, I do each petal separately. That way I'm not, I'm maintaining the shape of my flower and the individual petals, and it'll make it easier to paint later. Because it's also creating some memory in myself, memory as to what the shape of the flower is, because frankly, the shape of things, it's easy to lose. And if you go outside the line, no one's going to come and arrest you. There's no painting police involved here. At least none that I've ever seen. Okay, so, and while we're at it, I will let you know that you may use this photograph to paint. I don't have a problem with that. Just make sure you cite your source as Edith Mary Stanley or Fine Art and Foolery. See how that you can, it's all filled in, but you can still see the shape of the petal. And I would ask that you do it for your own pleasure, your own household, and to give away. But if you're going to sell it, that's up to your conscience. Most artists don't like you to sell their work and claim it as your own, because it's not yours. You're inspired by them, and you can put that in the title of your work, you know. Inspired by an Edith Stanley photograph, or inspired by Fine Art and Foolery's painting. It's not kosher, and I forgot to get water, so I've got to go get a container of water. I'll be right back. But what I was saying is it's not kosher to claim someone else's work as yours. I know there's such a thing out there called fan art. I'm not a big believer in it. I believe if you're going to paint a photograph, it should be your own photograph or a photograph where the photographer or the person taking the photograph has given you permission to do so and to claim credit for it. In painting, wow, that's what happens when they start to dry. And that's okay because it needs a modeled underneath it. It needs a modeled surface. So if in doubt about painting something, always ask the artist, may I copy this? And the artist will more than likely say, yeah, sure, not a problem. Just don't go and sell it as your original work because it's not your work. You're basing your painting on someone else's work. All the masters have done it. All the masters have copied other people. And that's okay. Just don't claim it as your own. Now, since this part of the throat is a deep magenta color, I'm actually going to put out some of this beautiful mulberry color by Folk Art, which I don't have a whole lot left. I don't even know if they make this color anymore, but it's like a brick red. With a little bit of the white from before. And I think I might mix a little bit of this is Master's Touch Vermilion, which I bought at Hobby Lobby for obviously $3.99 because I absolutely love the color. So I put a little bit out on my palette. And let's see what this color makes. It makes a kind of an orangey color, isn't it? But that's kind of cool, though. I like that. So let's use that. I just load up my brush, and I want to come in here. And I know I put in all those details, and now I'm taking them out, but that's okay. It helped me to define my flower. And I actually have my reference photo on the computer over here. Okay, I'm just making it bigger, aren't I? When it's supposed to be. Okay, let's do this a little more round up here. There we go. That's looking a little better. Sometimes you just have to adjust on the fly. Okay. Now, whoops, I got all splashy with it. So I cleaned up my brush. And I want to take this Dusty Mauve color, which from Delta Cream Coat, I swear to God, I have no idea where I even got this, but I've had it for forever. There's no price tag, no store tag, no anything on it, which means it probably fell off. That's how long ago I've had it. So I want to take the dusty mauve color. And while my brush is wet, but not sopping, I want to take this and that's kind of, oh, almost the same color. How about that? It's kind of the beginnings. Notice I lightened it up over here because it was a little dark. I'll probably go over that again in some white. And just follow the shape of the petal. And flick it out because it's not so much the color isn't so much around here as it is in the center. As a matter of fact, it is fairly brilliant in the center. I know it's probably a no-no that I don't mix my own paints. I don't always mix my own colors, rather, not my own paints, my own colors. And this is going to require a little bit more. I'm just going to block these in because these are all just basically one kind of color. So I'm going to take that dusty mauve color, mix it with a little white so that it's not so bright and they sort of blend into the background. Sorry if I quit talking, it's because I'm concentrating. And sometimes talking and thinking don't really go hand in hand, especially when you're me. There we go. Now I want to take just a little extra of the dark, just on the corner of the brush, and come back around where it's going to be in shadow. And wow, that got to be there we go. Now I did go over here. I spilled over into the other petal. That's okay. I can come back when I'm refining my shape. And when I'm painting this little petal in again, this petal here, this one, I can take it back down where it belongs. So I'm going to do a little bit more on this side. Got a little far down, so I'm going to bring this one down to match it, because flowers are not always symmetrical. That doesn't look too bad. Flowers are not always symmetrical, and that's okay. They're not supposed to be, but they are at least kind of the same shape on one side or another. So I am going to wait until this dries, and then we'll be back. My brush, which is, I don't know, it says silver black pearl on it. I think I got it in a box of like a free sample kind of thing that came in the mail. So I'm darkening up this area through here on the sides, because they're the ones that move back the most. So I'll have to go over those. And then there's this little thing. Let's get a little, well, I overmixed. There we go. Now this area down here on the orchid is actually very bright pink, but we'll be saving that. Just rinsing out my brush, going back into the dusty mauve. And bringing forward a little bit of highlight. Now, along with excuse me, caught a nice view of my ceiling. I am going to put a little bit of the bright yellow from Apple Barrel on my palette. Just a little, not a whole lot. Because right in this area right here is a bright pink, bright yellow with pink dots. So I'm cleaning my brush off, well, drying it off on my leg. I don't have my painting shorts on today, so I'm just using my leg. Now my brush is still wet, but it's not sopping fresh from the water. So I'm just going in right here. And I may need to add a little bit of white with that to make it less opaque. So I think I'll go ahead and do that with the white from before. No surprises, just yellow, solid yellow. And it's kind of a squarish shape. Okay, that may need to dry just a little bit more, but I wanted to at least get it in there to block in that color. Wow, I had no idea that that yellow was that transparent. Right here, and when I post the photo you'll be able to see it. Right here is a very bright, luminous kind of ball shape. So I'm going to grab just a little bit more white and block that color in. It goes something like that. It's flat-ish on the bottom. Well, actually, no, it's not flat-ish on the bottom. It's sort of flat-ish on the bottom. There is this little thing that comes down like that. And since I'm just blocking in more color, that's okay. Now, out from this section here, there is a little bit more. Oops, my brush was too wet, sorry. Wet brushes are good, sopping is not. So again, I'm just wiping it on my leg, trying to avoid my shorts. I'm just gathering, I'm trying to decide what to do. I'm just gathering this mauve color and I'm swooping up because that's the sides of the whatever this is here. So I'm just taking it here and swooping up. I think I'll do that again on that side. That was fun. Swoop up. Okay. Cool. That catches the sides, and this becomes more the back of the throat, and this is the more foreground. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring some of that color down a little bit into the dark. There we go. It's getting there. It's a little lopsided, but we'll deal with it. There we go. That's a little bit better. I might want to take just a little bit of white with that and blend on the canvas a little bit more. Because eventually I'll be putting a little bit of a yellow wash in. There we go. Now there's also right here a very bright pink, so I'm going to go ahead and put this little beard shape on it, and it actually goes behind, so I'll just blend those in. Covering up the color block from before. And I'm just patting that white because I want it to be white when I go to put like a little pinky wash on it. So I'm just patting it on and patting it up the sides, or stippling, however you care to refer to it. It's patting, or you're patting the brush to the canvas, or you are stippling. Depends on who you talk to. Okay, that's looking a little better. It's looking a little strange actually because these maybe are not quite that dark. So I'm going to come back in. It's the outer petals. There's two petals around here that are actually more dark than that is. So we're getting there. Okay, so this puts this in front, and actually those two little petals come off of this white section and curl back in. So I'll put those in very, very last. And in the meantime, again, I'm taking a little bit of white and I'm lightening that area up. Just almost dry brush blending. There we go. It's a very subtle technique. Now while that dries, we need to work on these. These are, I'm going to go over it again in white, just to give it a more smooth appearance. Of course, there's mauve in my brush, but that's okay. Actually, it's sitting on top of some mauve, so and don't forget that this, I don't think I meant to get that color, so we'll just start over. More white. So I got some more white. I'm just wiping my brush off onto the palette. And I'm just grabbing that white. And remember, it comes in front of this other petal quite significantly. Okay, I'm actually just cleaning off my brush. I'm putting some more white in. And actually, well, being that far away, I'm going to take some of my gloss medium and put it out on the, wow, sometimes they get a little hard to open. Put a little bit of the gloss medium out. It looks white. Here it is. It looks white, but it's not. It's more, it gives it a transparent look. So what I'm doing is just going over it again with that gloss medium mixed in with the white, mauve color, to create a more uniform look and to get rid of the canvas underneath. I must have laid my white in some wet mauve color. And yes, you may be shocked that I use my leg as to dry my, I usually use painting shorts rather than even paper towels, because painting shorts are just that. They're for painting. There we go. It's a little bit better. It's shaping up. I need a little bit of dark right in here. And I'm just sort of flicking it out. And I might even want to take this mauve color in some streaks and blend them out. The streaks are still there and you can still see the streaks, but it adds texture and it adds interest to the petal. And then I will come back later when that's dry . Yep, I got it in the yellow. Isn't that nice? I am not known for being the world's neatest painter. This again is just white with the gloss medium with a little too much yellow in it, but that's okay. I sort of went over the edge a little too much and I just took it out with my finger. So I'm creating that crisp edge on the bottom. That nice crisp white edge and that nice crisp white edge across the top too. I'm actually one of those people, I don't care to see the canvas underneath. I like a very smooth surface to paint on. which is sometimes why I put like layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff on, because I want it to be smoother. I did not quite achieve this time. I'm that way also when because sometimes you just use it to gloss or to blend the colors out. This is the gloss medium. I want a little bit more white than I've been putting in here. When I draw, I'm the same way. I like it extremely smooth paper, an extremely smooth surface to draw on. I'm just funny that way. I don't want to see texture. If I want texture, I'll put texture in. I don't want to see texture from the paper, although there are times it's rather handy. Okay, and since no two petals are ever alike, I will come back in when this is dry and put like a crisper white edge. Now this petal on the top, I am actually going to do a tad darker. So I added a little bit of, it was my gloss medium, the mulberry, and a little teeny bit of black. Although that looks like a lot of black. Sometimes you just mix up the color and see what happens. Only I got too much of it on my brush. So I'm just wiping the edge off on the palette. And the color is at this point dulled down, which is exactly what I wanted, because I want this to go into the background. I want this petal to not be as brilliant as the others. So I'm just trying to not screw up what I've already done. And those of you who know me are now snickering. So I need to find a clean section of palette. I don't think I'm going to manage that quite so much. So, because it's like messy at this point. Again, my skin will clean. I'm just cleaning my brush off. And I am going to have to go get another palette. Or the paper plate. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. Clean plate. Pure white. Dry-ish brush. And I'm putting that nice crisp white edge on the top. With quite a lot of paint. And I'm bringing it down into the pink. I'm wiping off my brush, making it a little more dry. Whoops, sorry. And I'm not quite, I had a little too much white, and the paint underneath it was a little too, so I'm going in, and because I'm a messy painter, and because I like to get my hands involved, that's actually starting to look much more like I like. There we go. That defines that. Just bringing this paint in. There we go. And yes, I do occasionally dip my fingers in the water. I can go over that with a little bit of a Sharpie. I dip my fingers in the water and make it do what I want. And that's pretty much what I want right now. As a matter of fact, Painting for me is a full body experience. There's not enough white in this. So sometimes it's just a matter of adding. And this is my first attempt at painting live, or not live, but yeah, painting live on video. So I'm actually having to paint around the tripod at the moment. And it's because I normally paint flat. And I normally don't have to talk while I'm painting, except to the cat when they're in my water. So here's where I'm coming in with my fingers. Something gritty in there. What I'm doing is going back to the old palette that had a little bit of darker color in there, and I'm just putting a little bit in. Okay. Putting in that crisp edge. So I know that, you know, this being the first video I've ever done, it's not all that great, but everybody gets to start somewhere. And this is mine. Now I also doodle. I do doodle art, which is Entangle inspired, and but it's my own thing because that's who I am. In case you hadn't noticed. And painting is not my first. I do collage work, collage and mosaics. That's my first. So I can make that look much more like an orchid if I was doing 3D stuff, but I'm not. So I'm trying to stay away from it. But feel free to go on my Facebook page, Edith Mary Stanley, and look at, Fine Art and Foolery, and take a look at some of the stuff. You'll see what I mean when I say more three-dimensional. It's like collage on a canvas. But I have storage issues. In other words, I only have so much closet space to store my doodads and stuff for the collage, so I've been trying to get away from it more and do this more. I think I'm kind of happy with these petals. It's this in here that I'm still a little concerned about, so I'm going to switch back to my palette. I've dried my brush off on my leg because that's just who I am. And I'm still not quite liking this yellow. I mean, I love the color. I love the color. I just don't like the transparency of it. Which means I have to put it on nice and thick, and we all wait till it dries. And the other good part about that is it is transparent, and I can do just a little bit of a wash up the side without having to use the gloss medium. Okay, how am I doing so far? I'm going to clean my brush. And dry it off. And I want to put another layer of white in here to make it a little bit more opaque, because what I want to do, because everything I do has to have glitter for some reason or another. And so I'm just stippling here again. using my fingers. And I'm just reaching in and getting fresh water so I can clean up that edge there. There we go. It's not so awful bad. So what I would like to do at this point is get a little bit more of that mauve color. Out onto the palette. Dry off my brush. I want my brush extremely dry. My leg looks like white and mauve tiger stripes. Just get it right on the end and get fairly close. Make sure your paint is liquid at this point and get fairly close to what it is you want to do. Because this type of orchid has a lot of mottling dots, spray, whatever. And so I'm just flicking it on the whiter petals. Sometimes you get big splats. Sometimes you get thinner splats. Sometimes you get a line of splats. But I want to make sure I also get some on that. It just comes to a point you got to put more on your brush. There's quite a lot on the I'm going to mix a teeny weeny bit of black in there to get a little bit more contrast for these bottom petals. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. Okay, well, such is art. So we'll now just call it Impressionist Splatter. One thing isn't working, come up with something else. So I got some, and having ditched this painting twice before, I don't want to do it again. So I'm going to put you on hold while I go wash my hands. Hands are washed, knees cleaned off, brush kind of cleaned off and dry-ish. I want to go back in and clean up this edge so it's not hanging out there. Because to me, when the canvas is showing through, it kind of looks like a mistake. And not, I just don't like the look. Other people don't care, other people do. And that's okay, I don't really care one way or the other. What landed here? Huh. It's a piece of globby dried paint. Okay, so what do we think so far? I think at this point I'm going to take a little teeny bit of black and that mauve and mix it together. I want to make it darker than that, so I know that you're supposed to use the complementary colors, and that's okay. Oh, I just flung it all over everywhere. And that's okay. Now right here, I want to come up and out. Not everybody likes to do the same thing. I have done complementary colors. I like it. Take just a little bit of white and highlight this top edge. But sometimes I like to just do dark to tone things down. I have my own look, my own style. Now, one thing I will do is when I'm all done, I will come back with some gel pens and I will doodle some stuff in here because I can't do anything without doodling it somehow or another. So I'm going to take just a little bit of black. That's all I'm doing. My brush was clean. I didn't do anything with my brush. And I'm coming in on this dark, dark edge here. And I'm darkening up the lower edge. Cleaning my brush off on my palette. Taking a little bit of white again, coming back in because I lost some of it. And I will also film the, here we go, ish. That becomes an ish. Okay, that's not a, this is not by any stretch of the imagination. True to life, realistic. This is my version of whatever kind of orchid this is. And I am actually going to see if I have, well, I wasn't thinking about that orchid. I could use the Orchid from Folk Art, which is actually a lovely color. Let's try it. I was going to go for purple, but let's try this. I just want to make a wash. I don't want to do a solid color. I just want to make a wash, which means I may have to, yep, it's an opaque color. I'm sorry, I stuck my brush in my mouth and shouldn't have. So I'm using some of my gloss medium, and I'm just picking up some gloss medium to go with that color, the orchid color, because all I want is a wash of color. Just a wash of this orchid color. Just a layer of color. And frankly, I learned how to use gloss medium from Painting with Jane, who is an excellent teacher. She's, may not know it, but she is a mentor for me. Anyway, she is a mentor. And I was just picking up a little bit of water to help this spread a little bit easier. And I really enjoy her work tremendously. Okay, that adds like a little purpley color. I'm going to add a little bit more right here. And then add a little bit of the wash inside to bring a little bit of, paint wasn't quite dry, but that's okay because then it becomes a shadow. Clever how I thought of that, wasn't it? I might want to go back over and do some more splatters. And just to unify it some, I can come back in here. Yep, I'll want to do a few more splatters because I just wiped them out. And we're going to put some orchid down here. And whoa, sorry. And I avoided the splatters there. Cool beans. All that's left now is to do the detail inside the throat and make this more luminescent, to which I have this, I've lost the label, wherever it was. I paid $5.59 for it. I don't know where it is, don't know what brand it is, but it is pearlescent in color. As a matter of fact, I broke the whole lid off at some point. And so I'm putting a little I can get the lid back on, of that pearlescent color, but I'm going to be using a smaller brush. So I'm just making my brush wet and squeezing out the excess water, and I'm taking the pearlescent color and I'm brushing it in on top of the white. So it'll give, sorry, I had a little too much on my brush, so I had to dab it off. So it will add a luminescent effect. I did my girlfriend, she has a seagull in her front yard, and I did her seagull in luminescent colors. So it just sort of glows in the sunshine. It was really kind of cool. And now I'm just dabbing that same luminescent color over here on top of that, trying to define, give it a little bit more color, and trying to define the bottom edge of that, whatever Y-shaped petals those are. I can take this dark-ish color that I made for the shadow here, and I can put, well, I probably should make that into a point if I'm going to put dots on it. Just dots of color, because it's very speckled. And that speckling kind of goes up here. So I've just picked up more paint, sharpened up my point a little bit. And carried my dots up. So much for what I said I was going to put the details in. That's okay, because I can still... Now, one thing I want to do is go back in and put yellow dots in it, because I erased a little too much. I didn't erase it, I covered it up. So the best way to do that is just go back in. See, that's a little too much. Whoops. And put yellow dots over it. Just fill it in. It is, after all, not an exact representation of an orchid. I know, baby. I'm sorry, my baby Clarence was wanting attention. Now, in this here, in the original photograph, there appear to be eyes. I know they're not eyes. They're shadows. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those shadows in. With some of that dark, very dark mauve color I made up for this shadow color. So it kind of looks like a face. And I'm good with that, because it's cute anyway. Let's see. In the original photograph, this throat area way in the back is very light. It is, however, when I took the photograph, I took it head on, so with the flash of the photograph, went directly into the throat and highlighted that area. So I am not going to do much with that. I think this is the piece that holds the bottom on, the bottom of the throaty flower. Okay, it's an orchid of some kind, so this is a separate piece from the panels, and I think this is the piece that holds it on from all the orchids I've ever seen. But I will make it, give it some dark spots. So if I was going to do anything with this background in here, I would make it darker, and I just might well do that. Make it darker around the edges. Okay. I'm going for a little bit of water to thin it down a little bit. I know my color choice may have been a little odd, but you know what? It's my flower. You can choose whatever colors you want for your flower. That's the whole point of having a painting be yours, is turn it into something you want to hang on your walls with what goes with your decor. There we go. This is just a wet brush. All I'm doing is smoothing that out, making that more blendy looking. If blendy looking is a term. And I messed up my yellow there, so there we go. There's no such thing as messing up. But I am going to put some yellow dots in here, just cause. Let's see. I might deepen this in here a little. And I think while I'm at it, I will go in this V shape and set that portion of the throat back. I need to clean off my brush, maybe get a little water on it, and set that portion of the throat back. I'm picking up a minute bit of black. Well, it wasn't as minute as I thought it would be. That's okay. A little bit of water will help bring that back down. There we go. Now I'm going to wipe my brush off, go back into my white, and put more highlight I think I just undid my dark. Put a little much there. That's okay. We can adjust as we go. If you don't like it, come back in and do a finger swipe. Just putting the shadow back in that I lost because I got a little overzealous with the white. And because I did get overzealous with the white, I'm going to take a little bit of that mauve color that I made up, and I'm going to go over it. I didn't make up the mauve color, I added it with gloss medium. Sorry, I lost myself there for a second. And I think the time has come for me to step back from it because I'm doing too much, I think. Now, I will come back in and I will do, but I'll put that on camera as well. I will do some doodling on it and some fine tuning and maybe some, I don't know, we'll see what happens when I get to doodling. So thanks for watching this part. If you want to watch the doodle part, keep watching. If not, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you letting me come in and